Artificial intelligence isn't coming, it's here. It's the defining technology of our time. But it's human ingenuity that makes it so powerful. Jane started losing her vision when she was 12.
California Street.
She uses Seeing AI.
I crept down the stairs.
I crept down the stairs and out the door,
which enables her to read and navigate her world. Microsoft AI is helping farmers adapt to climate change.
We can use technology to help feed the world without wrecking the planet.
Enabling wildlife conservation.
The ability to use AI really democratizes science. WildMe uses images from any source to help study endangered species.
And creating new ways for people with hearing loss to communicate.
I want the exact same information that my hearing friends have.
It's more than just imitating intelligence or sounding like a human. Microsoft AI is changing every industry, from healthcare.
And now you can see these finite details, the relationship with many structures,
to engineering and telecommunications.
We are using artificial intelligence to change the way we are relating to customers.
AI lets us put people first.
The Microsoft tools really enabled us to breathe digital life into an iconic brand persona.
The product that we make is not a thing in a box.
No.
Microsoft AI empowers others to create experiences and potential. This is just the beginning.
Artificial intelligence, it's just opened up this whole world.
The future we invent is a choice we make.
Now, a conversation brought to you by our underwriter, Microsoft. Please welcome Thomas Kuczynski, Vice President of Information Technology for DC Water, and Toni Townes-Whitley, President of U.S. Regulated Industries for Microsoft.
Hey, right up here.
Morning.
Hey, good morning. My day job is Regulated Industries for Microsoft in the United States, which includes financial services, healthcare, government, and education. As well, I sit on the AI Ethics Committee for Microsoft. So this conversation around regulation, the role of government, the role of technology, and the conversation around ethics is part of a very deep and daily conversation we're having at Microsoft. Today, I get the opportunity to introduce Tom Kuczynski, who's here with DC Water. And we're going to kind of shift the conversation a bit to talk about the practical, pragmatic applications of AI and other technologies that are being used and where and how it makes sense. Tom is Vice President of IT at DC Water. You've had over 35 years of experience in IT, obviously joining the industry right out of middle school. And look, joining DC Water in 2013. So I thought we'd start off with the conversation about DC Water itself, the scale, your interesting clientele. Talk to us a little bit about DC Water, explain that to the audience, as well as what are some of the challenges that the technology that we'll speak to are helping you address.
Be happy to do that, Toni, and thanks for having me today.
Yeah.
For folks that don't know, DC Water operates the largest advanced wastewater treatment plant in the world. Our Blue Plains facility processes about 200 to 300 million gallons of wastewater a day. We manage 1,900 miles of sewer system, some of which is over 100 years old, and we distribute 99 million gallons of water a day through 1,300 miles of distribution pipe. We're also actually installing, in the middle of a $2.7 billion project, stormwater management project, which is designed to reduce the overflows in the Anacostia and Potomac rivers by about 98%. So we've got a big operation, and we actually serve some of the most powerful and most important people in the world, if not just the country. So we've got a lot going on at DC Water. Probably the largest challenge is actually the cost to manage and operate and support that system on a long-term basis. And technology, we believe, is an avenue to help us better manage that process, improve customer service, increase reliability, but also reduce the cost of the operation as well.
So we've talked about cost and customer service, as well as you've given some of the metrics around the scale of the operation you run and the clientele that you serve, from the White House to other parts of the Washington, D.C. area. Let's talk about specifically how you've infused technology in specific parts of your operation, and what are some of the outcomes, benefits, as well as, quite frankly, maybe even some of the unintended or unknown benefits that were part of that operation.
So since about 2014, when I joined, after I joined DC Water, we developed a technology strategy, digitization strategy for the utility, where we would move a lot of our operations away from paper-based solutions to digital platforms. That includes mobile work management, that includes customer self-service portals, but it also includes a strategy around cloud first, which is to move our entire portfolio of applications off-premise into the cloud, as well as a buy and adopt strategy, essentially buying what we can and adopting the functionality that's available in that application as quickly as possible. And the primary driving force around that was actually to continue to maintain our systems at the most current level possible. And it also gives us the ability to take advantage of newer technologies more quickly than we could have in the past with an on-premise solution that we had to manage.
And look, we talk about how you've done it. In the how is a sequencing of beginning with IoT or Internet of Things, and how you've used those kinds of sensors and those sort of data collection devices up front, as well as not quite a big bang is what I hear, is a very sort of a rolling implementation. Can you talk a little bit about the how?
It's actually been a very deliberate strategy, starting with when I joined the organization, most of the systems were 4+ years old. Hadn't been maintained. That includes both the hardware and the software. So we needed to make investments across the entire portfolio of IT, but we couldn't do it all at once, and for two reasons. Number one, it was expensive. Number two, it's more risky than a more deliberate approach. So we established a strategy. We looked at our highest risk solutions first, and then we started to replace those. But at the same time, we needed to position ourselves for the future. You mentioned the IoT devices and taking advantage of those. So we actually followed two paths. One was to replace our core systems, our customer billing systems, financial, HR, and the like, but also a second path that was more strategically focused. And that particular path actually was more targeted towards individual pilots that then ultimately grew into a comprehensive solution set for the organization.
So I'm going to go off script. You've got a couple of predictive capabilities that you've put in place. Your top two favorites here in terms of the solutions and what they're driving in your current operation.
So the favorite right now is our Pipe Sleuth solution, which is actually using the Microsoft Cognitive Toolkit to detect and classify pipe defects. So what we've essentially done is replaced what traditionally was a highly manual process, labor-intensive plus costly process for inspecting our sewer system to identify potential defects in the system and then determine repair and replacement schedules. We've actually replaced that with a deep learning neural network application that analyzes the video stream rather than having an operator look at that. It actually detects, classifies, and scores all the pipe defects in about 10% of the time it would take a traditional operator to do that, and at a cost reduction of about 50 to 75%. So we've taken the cost of a linear foot of pipe inspection down from $7 to $8 a linear foot down to $2 or $3 a linear foot. So there's a substantial improvement in the detection capabilities, but also a significant reduction in the cost. So we're able to drive those benefits back to the organization. The second one's not so predictive, but it's our smart water fountain. We designed and built the first IoT-enabled water fountain that actually detects, monitors water quality at the point of use. And we're in the process of installing 113 of those in Flint, Michigan right now.
Smart water fountain, if everybody didn't catch that. I love that right there. Now, we talked about Flint. What's happening here? Do we have smart water fountains here in DC?
We've got 8 installed. We've had two at Octo headquarters, and we've had 4 at our facility, and then we've had 2 of them on our test bench for about 3.5 years now.
Okay, phenomenal. Look, we're always going around the U.S. speaking to various city leaders, municipal leaders, folks directly in your industry in water and electric. And there's a conversation about the value, the utility, the cost savings, some of the myth, if you will, and magic around the technology. advice that you would offer. You've been doing this for over 3 decades. You've been doing it with DC Water for a number of years. What's the sort of top 2 or 3 nuggets that you offer?
Yeah, I think you got to start out realizing that there's always going to be a bit of skepticism, especially with newer technologies and more advanced technologies like AI. There's going to be a bit of fear and concern from the workforce about whether or not they're going to be somehow displaced by these technologies. And I think the third thing is really it's sometimes hard for people to understand the cost benefit of these particular investments, especially on some of the more predictive things like main break predictions, predictive models. Our pipe sluice solution was fairly straightforward. We were able to prove the benefits up front after a small prototype that we did. So that was pretty easy, but the predictive models are a little bit more difficult, and getting people to invest in those is a little bit more challenging. So I'd say, the first thing is find those opportunities that are the biggest pain points for the organization, but also some of the higher cost activities in the organization, and focus on those first. Drive those benefits, and then with that, you can drive greater adoption throughout the organization for other more creative solutions.
So find the pain points, the largest ones, prioritize those, go after those first, and be aware of some of the concerns, right? The hype curve around new tech, the concern of job and job displacement, and the cost-benefit analysis are the 3 that I hear. Look, I mean, we're at Microsoft, if I can just pull it back for a minute in terms of this particular conversation, we are particularly proud to have you and organizations like DC Water using the technology. But the conversation all day, which you've heard for the last hour or so, is the broader conversation that's occurring across Microsoft. It's a conversation about the use of the technology, the efficacy of the technology, the ethics around the technology, how and where and when, and what are the appropriate uses of the technology. That's why we launched an AI business school. AI business school online, free for all business leaders to understand how do we make decisions as business leaders? Where should tech be involved and infused? Where should you make decisions around sensitive uses where you may take it to a very different decision matrix? So I want to make sure that you're aware for today, in the back of the room, there's a booth there that speaks to AI for business leaders and the site and how you can get that information as well. I believe over the next week or so, we'll launch it specifically for government leaders. So there'll be specific case studies and criteria there. The Seeing AI that you saw in the video that is used by many individuals, not only with sight-impaired individuals, but low-sight individuals, that also is on display in the back. So let's make sure we're all aware of where AI can and should play a role, and that's what we're here for. Thank you so much, Tom, for joining us for this. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.